Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally, Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the science media cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Is that after President Museveni, we should never have any leader who will rule Uganda for more than 2 terms. That's my prayer, and I'm open about it. We must work together to return term limits.
The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayewa, addressing one issue that has been trending, especially online, of him remarking that no other leader should rule Uganda for more than 2 times apart from Mr. Museveni. We shall be also talking about that a bit later on. But you're still watching the Hotline Show in this second hour and final hour of this particular show. Remember, we run every Monday starting from 7 to 9, and I'm always here with a couple of gentlemen from various political sides, trying to touch base on some of the issues that are happening in this country. And we have these conversations to make Uganda a better place, because it's not only for us, it has been entrusted to us, but it's for the generation that is yet to come. I'm going to come to you, Honorable Pollar, just to give us some of the solutions you think can help in addressing the NGO crisis, if it's a crisis in the country today.
Okay, first permit me in a minute to respond to what my Congress brother made.
Yes, sir.
Now, he says that we shouldn't make comparisons with other countries, especially when it is bad things, because he was responding to my example on Ethiopia. But we all know that we always do benchmarking. Even other countries come to Uganda for benchmarking. And that is why we read history. Because history, you learn the mistakes that you have made and you correct it. So I don't think it is not good to even see any bad thing, if it is from another country. How else are we going to avoid falling in the same pit? Do you want us to go blindly, make the same mistake, then somebody comes laughing, say, ha ha, Ethiopia did it. Why didn't you see what Ethiopia did? Why didn't you see it? You first want to fall, then somebody wants you. It is what you have done. Ethiopia fell in the pit 5 years ago. So I don't think my brother is right to say we don't learn best practices or even bad practices.
I didn't say bad. I'm talking about bad practices.
Benchmarking means you see what is wrong,
yes,
to avoid it, and you see what is right to pick it.
Thank you, sir.
The other thing I want to say is that I am not understanding the logic of saying government is bad, then donors don't give the money. Then who are you punishing? If you say Uganda is bad, I'm not giving the money, who are you punishing? Because you would be punishing the people, you are a donor beneficiary.
Yeah.
So I do not think that donors can say we are going away because government has done this. I see Congress will respond. But I think I have to respond to your,
please do.
your question
yes,
on
sir.
how
Can we solve this
yes.
issue?
How to cure the donor situation depends on what do we want to cure. For example, is our cure to the extent that we want the NGO numbers to be up? I don't think so. To me, if we are curing the number of NGOs to be up, it's just for us to address problems that are there that does not warrant NGOs. For example, take a simple thing. If you have an NGO on protection of child rights, by the fact that NGOs come for the protection of child rights, it means they have done a research and found lots of violations
About children.
So why wouldn't we avoid violations? I'm just giving that as an example.
Yes, sir.
So the other thing is war itself. NGOs had come for war, or as a result of the war. We avoid war. NGOs which give food for the hungry, we should do things that make us produce our food so that we have the food. So in other words, the problems that attract NGOs should be addressed. Then we would need no NGO if we are addressing to increase the number of NGOs. Why would we be excited in increasing? Two, in the unfortunate event that there are things that you can't do without for example, child right violations continue, either by drunkards or by some reckless relatives. Remember, there's a general belief that sexual abuse of a child is not done by a stranger. Rarely do a stranger come in the home and rape a child. Many of the abuses are done by relatives. So, if such violations still continue and where we need NGO, then we must, as a country, provide conducive atmosphere. Yes. And that is why I said, even when we are coming with a legislation, it should be consultative, it should be laws in the best interest of the country. Okay, we should not think that we are punishing some people, and that is it. The other way of making it is that even those who are involved in NGO, for goodness sake, they are the ones spoiling the name of NGOs. Because if you are involved in NGO and you are found to be scapulars, either stealing the money, or you're using the NGO for politics, and yet you're purporting to be doing some other violations, and the state gets to know that you're involving it for politics, to want to overthrow a government using NGO, then that is bad. Then those are the ones who spoil the name of other good NGOs. Okay, sir. So this is a multiplicity of things that we can do to be sure that NGO fill the vacuum that is there. They are good, they fill vacuum, but it should be honest and clean.
Okay. This is Makulo Odori. You were saying, thank you so much for watching. You say you had long consultative meetings before NGO Act was passed. Please also do the same for the predatory mercenary Nigerian and Chinese money lenders that charge stupendous interest rates. I like the word stupendous. Sir, what do you think about this particular his submission, but also giving us solutions to this particular issue as we finish that debate?
I want to repeat one thing. Comrade Awich is a lawyer. I don't know which defense lawyer or which defense witness is going to go to the pulpit of the courts and say, you know, my brother killed killed three, I've only killed one. You know, and you say that's the defense. No, that's all what I'm saying.
No, you say my
just because we kill.
You say my brother kill, I don't want to kill. You are citing that my brother killed, I therefore don't want to kill.
The way you were framing it was not in that way. No, you are absolutely right. My brother killed, I don't want to kill. That's why for us in the UPC, we know, that people who've killed in this country, we want to make sure that, no, there are no more killings in this country going forward. Okay, so as far as NGOs are concerned, no, we don't want those comparisons. But number two, there is this business about the fact that NGO, that funders, when they don't come in, they are the ones who lose. That's absolutely true. But in any case, these guys are not democratically obliged to us. And I've argued about this way back from the last, actually now 30 years, moving from the 20 years discussing this interest rate thing in Uganda. I go back to the Jubilee 2000 campaign for debt relief on Africa, way back in the 90s, saying that many of these debt relief things are very much about bad lenders and bad borrowers, people who do not have the mandate to borrow on our behalf. Do you know what? Governments and citizens of the West have got no direct obligation to us, except the fact that some of our messes have caused, like the environmental issues and some of these wars. But if there is an average person who's giving money to, wants to give money to Africa, you know, and they've got a bad story about Uganda, but a good story about Malawi, they'll go to Malawi. You know, they'll go to these Malawian guys. And if they don't come to the past guys in Uganda, they don't lose sleep. So we're the ones who lose on that. But that argument also was pushed during apartheid, Comrade, which, you know...
I wanted to give that.
I was there. That, you know, we were saying that let's say go for sanctions against apartheid South Africa. And you know what the Margaret Thatchers and the Donald Trump's people of Reagan were saying? That, oh, you know, if we sanction South Africa, it's the poor ordinary people who will suffer. That argument. Look, the solution
Can I say, just to clarify that, or to add on, is that when the white South Africans were oppressing the blacks, a lot of call around the world called for sanctioning the government, South African government. Now, in Uganda's case, for example, we executed the sanction to the extent that Uganda's passport was written to all countries except South Africa. Now, Margaret Thatcher, the then Prime Minister of England, and Ronald Reagan, the President of USA, came up with a view that constructive engagement with South Africa, that they want engagement which is constructive. We said, what does it mean? He said, we need not to sanction South Africa, because should we sanction them, it is the ordinary blacks who will suffer. Then the blacks said, but we are ready to suffer. So, if these people are saying they will withdraw NGO, and then the people who are ready here, they are saying to suffer, but our people are saying, no, we are not ready to suffer, you help us. So it is distinguishable with the other one. The other one were saying, the blacks were saying, we want it. Here our people are not saying that.
That is absolutely true. And as a matter of interest, you know, that is the progressive UPC programs which we resolutely put, except South Africa. So credit to UPC on the struggles of South Africa, lest they forget. But look, no, I haven't answered your point, but I'll be brief, because in partly what Comrade Awich says. No, NGO's number, the rise of NGO's number, you know, is really not an endorsement of how good a government is. It's an indictment on the numbers, an indictment on the quality of services that governments do. For us, actually, what we need to do is to make sure that Mr. Museveni is very tired, should retire. The Comrade Awichis have been in government for quite a long time. They should go back and look after Carter for some. The Comrade Awichis, you need to rest. You've been in public service for such a long time. You know, we get a new government that comes in here
if the masses still
with an alternative program, you know, that will purely invest hugely in education, invest in health, invest in infrastructure, invest in agriculture, invest in law and order. And the point of Comrade Awich was trying to say, to reach a situation in which a judicial review of 6 months does not take 5 years, you know, people who know, a woman who knows is aggrieved in a domestic situation, knows they go to the police, and then they'll get a fair hearing. If they go to courts, they will get a response. You know, the more you do that, the less you'll find NGOs, and basically that should really be the long-term solution. Most developed nations don't really have many of these NGOs. In fact, the Red Cross and the Red Crescents, they're the nearest to how many of these NGOs do exist.
All right, thank you so much. That is Honorable Joseph Ochieno from the Uganda People's Congress. Let's delve into a phenomenon that happened earlier on last week. We had an election in Kisoro district. We have a new woman member of parliament for Kisoro district elect. That is none other than the independent, who's leaning on the NRM side, Grace Ngabirano. Grace Ngabirano was able to acquire herself more than 50,000 votes, to be specific, 50,459, winning that particular seat. Next was the NRM flag bearer, that is Kabajeni Rose. She had over 44,982 votes casted to her name. Third is a National Unity Platform candidate, that is Zubedi Sultan Salim, who got herself 903 votes. Then Ingabire Mebo from the Uganda People's Congress got 362 votes. Then we had a lady from FDC, Musanansi Juliet, who got 193 votes, and Aisha Kipaye from People's Progressive Party, PPP, who got herself 157 votes. What does this speak of the election that is happening in the country? And as we speak today, we just have 1 year to a new election cycle. NRM looks to be really sweeping all these particular areas. What do we think about this? I'm going to start with you, sir, Honorable Awich. What's your take on the I'm seeing you smiling. What's your take, sir, on that election in Kisoro?
The take of that election is, to me, on 2 dimensions.
Okay.
On what I could call external and the other part internal. Or I could say national and then internal party elections. First of all, it proved that we have democracy in the country because parties were able to front their candidates. And I think to this extent, there were not so much cries, say, on the state apparatus. So people exercised their democratic rights. And you could see by the presence of I think 2 party presidents I am aware about. The president of the NUP, Honorable Chagulanyi, went, and the president of UPC, Honorable Akena Jimmy, went. And this is to show that there's democracy in the country. None of them was stopped. No campaign was interfered with, and that is it. Now, also one thing that one would note is that contrary to the views and the isolated areas where we have tended to have resistance as a party, NRM, we still have votes down there. And I've always said this, that a human being has the 5 senses: touch, feel, smell, and all this. Our interventions that we have done, the practical intervention on the livelihood of the people, including other software, if you made democratic approaches, the people are still endeared to NRM. People still believe in us. They gave us their mandate, and we do hope that they will have give us again in 2026. If you look at the participants in the primary election, we had 83,000 people who came and participated in the primary elections of NRM.
Wow.
The final
district?
83K. 83,000. The final only added 20,000. And I strongly believe that even the 20,000 who added to make around 90-something voted, about 18-something, so to say, added to make the final voting. Even those ones, you can still believe me that the majority were NRM. Only that they had not got chance to participate in primary. But for primary voters, those who participated in the primary in the district were 83,000. And yet the final voting, those who voted in the Independent Electoral Commission, were 90-something thousand.
Yes.
So, meaning therefore that we have the support, and that is what we have been telling people. So that is one thing that you can take. Now, for the other parties, we told them that apart from the support that we have all over the country, that area is a no-go area for you. They thought we were joking. They went ahead and nominated. But we knew that they just wanted to show that they are not sinking, that they are floating. And the little votes that these other parties got is relatives. Because in a village, a candidate knows I have my cousin there. And the cousin knows that the candidate knows. Now, if I don't vote in this village, my cousin will know I didn't vote for him. It reminds me of an election we had in Makere, where somebody in a Livingstone Hall wanted to stand for chair. But his roommate told him that, man, you can't win this election. You don't have support. The man insisted. When he stood, they counted the votes. Up to 300, the man had got nothing. When it came to 301, they got a vote for him. The roommate said, that is mine. That is not my vote. And then they counted the second one. Then the roommate said, that is yours. So the roommate said, now I'm done. I told you not to start, but at least I voted for you. So this is exactly what is happening to NUP, to UPC in Kisoro. It is the relatives.
Comment on that strength, because let's speak the truth. If the winner is an independent who is leaning on the NRM, and you have an NRM candidate coming with 40,000, that's like a total of 94,000, really all saying that we are behind NRM. And when you look at the total of opposition, it's not even more than 2,000 votes. I want you to just comment on where this strength you are galvanizing is coming from these days.
I already hinted by saying a human being has the senses. We are making interventions. People see it, people feel it. We're going for Paris Development Model, which is our flagship. People get this money, people use it, people change their livelihoods. We have many interventions across the country, including roads and so many things. Our manifesto is rich, and people know that these people have not taken the mandate of leadership for the sake. We are feeling it. I mean, Edgar, look, the life expectancy has gone from 43 to 64. Edgar, a research was recently done and found that in happinessogram, Uganda is the happiest in East Africa. So these are felt by the people. Our opponents who tend to argue in theoretical concepts, in some data that they come up with, we always tell them, you are right, you put your views, but the feeling, the people, ordinary people feel the pain, and they know where there's pain and no pain, and they do it. So that is where our support is coming from. Okay. Now, what I want to say, I put it in the national and non-national. I want to also acknowledge that as a party we had challenge. We did our primary election by lining up. Our party members, especially the one who became an independent, tend not to believe it. She didn't honor the results. And that now gives us, in retrospect as a party, to check in ourselves how to improve our primary elections so that the results are acceptable. President Museveni is so emphatic about giving the flag to the winner, because he believes that even in the areas where people went to NUP, they went to NUP because they were dissatisfied with the way their flag bearer was given at a parliamentary level. I saw something
that I have never seen. Yes. Two candidates come and step on the same pulpit with Mr. Museveni, both of them. They spoke on the same pulpit.
Yes. So now we need to check ourselves about our procedural aspects of the primary election so that we don't have to subject ourselves into this thing. Remember in the Kisoro that when these people are voting MP, even those who voted the independent, in their consciousness, they are voting NRM. In their consciousness, they are voting NRM. In fact, some of them don't even realize they voted a non-NRM or independent. For them, they are voting NRM. And therefore,
it shows. The person.
Yes, in fact, for them, they are all supporting NRM. And that is why, for the disagreement of party primary, they even came to the rally for the president and told the president, said, Your Excellency Muze, we love you, but this primary, you stay out of it. Meaning that if we are going for election in 2026, the 50,000 and the 40 are Museveni's vote. Not so?
And then our opposition has not more than 1,700.
Yes. So all those are Museveni votes. And that is why we are saying, for us, of course we know the importance of members of parliament. You need a member of parliament as a government to make government run, to pass policies, to pass legislation.
You need to have your parliament.
You need to have parliament. So we are not taking it. It's not just enough to win the presidential, but it's also good that we have the parliament. So
we're playing like you've not started, but it's been 38 years. But the way you're playing your politics is like you've not started. But I'm going to come to
when the masses still want us.
And you're going to explain to us if the masses are really cognizant of the multi-party dispensation that we are in. But let me first come to you, Honorable Joseph Ochieno. So what is your take on that election that happened in Kisoro district last week?
You seem to be very excited. You know, are you a lawyer?
I'm a journalist.
You're a journalist, okay.
For now.
And it's very close to this. Actually, contrary to Comrade Awich's excitement, his submissions are a national worry to me.
How so?
They're precisely the things we've been warning and telling the citizens of this country. That NRA, a military outfit, turned political, mobilized themselves into a political party after holding political parties hostage for 20 years. Edgar, for 20 years, Mr. Museveni's UPM, together with the military wing, took over government, broke government, targeted political parties and political leaders, killed, exiled, imprisoned, and dissembled many. Using you guys in the media, both locally and globally, particularly global Western media, who were doing the bidding for excess imperialist forces for whom Mr. Museveni was serving, both in this country, to break our economic systems, progressive economic system put by UPC, and in the region here, to call Mr. Museveni the new saint of the republic and the new saint of the region, baptize him chief of the new breed of African leaders, together with another ruthless guy in Ethiopia, a ruthless guy in Eritrea who continues today, and his other brother Paul Kagame as new breed of African leaders, banned the political parties for 20 years. So for 20 years, the official national narrative, meaning, Edgar, you were born, I don't know how old you are, a child is born and they reach 18, begin dating, and they reach 19, they produce a child. So a child is born and they become a parent. But all they know is that political parties are terrible, and the saint and their master savior is NRA and Mr. Museveni. For 20 years. So what do you expect? Kill the infrastructure of UPC, kill the infrastructure of DP, kill the infrastructure of any other political party. In fact, even neutralize UPM face, the other face of NRM thing, but there is this new thing called Mr. Museveni and his political organization, ranked by the likes of Besigye and others, and I'm just giving examples. Besigye pulls out a bit, by the Utafiris, the Mbabazis, and many of these strong men and these brothers and things like that. That's the climate, the contemporary climate we're discussing. So political parties, we fight our way to come back, from the witch. By the time we came back, most of our children don't even know what political parties, because they're the same victims, like the rest of Uganda. So most average voters in Kisoro today don't know anything about political parties, and they don't know anything about, the goodness of alternative politics.
But when the voters in Lango sub-region, northern Uganda, voted for UPC...
I'm giving...
No, let me first...
I'll come to that, and it's very important.
Yes, why didn't you call it what you're calling it now, sir?
I did. And if you guys follow me, and you follow...
Because it feels like now, because you've been given a bloody nose, where you won, it was all good and gracious.
If you're a journalist and a presenter, you're a fantastic guy. It means you've not even followed me, because I'm not making the argument for Kisoro. I am telling you the madness, crudeness of politics. I'm giving you the background to this. I've not reached that level. I'm not talking Kisoro. I'm talking about the death of pluralist polity and the emergence of NRA. I'm saying actually you must give massive credit.
No, but you did not say that death when they were winning.
No, because I think you intervened.
That you didn't say that death when you were winning.
You both intervened too quickly, and it disorientates me, and particularly because I've got sort of a lot to say on this thing structurally, to help you and to help many of your listeners, many of whom are victims of this NRA monolithic politics, particularly of 40 years, but especially of 20 years of banning political parties. And you find one very top coward, NRM guards cowards, they block everybody and they dance for 20 years. It's very difficult to tell whether or not they're really fine dancers. So really what happens in Dokolo, what happens in Uyam, you should give credit to the people of this country. And what happens, there's nearly 400 Ugandans who vote for UPC in Kisoro. You need to give credit to those people who got capacity to wake up, to realize. Just like my young fantastic, let me just make this point. Just like my young friend from Ankole, who's 34-year-old, extremely beautiful and fantastically clever a lawyer, who tells me that it took her a trip to Amuria with a pro bono civil NGO organization the other day to realize that we actually have two Ugandans. It took her a trip to Amuria, and she may be watching this thing, and she may watch this program in future. That is the nature of this thing. And what's her argument? Her argument is that she grew up and she thought Uganda was Museveni, NRA, and everything else was good. Mbarara, a bit of Kampala, no knowledge of the ginger and things like that, until she went to Amuria. And then she realized that there's something fundamental. Now, because she's a lawyer and she begins to read about many of these other things, she finds the context of where we are at the moment.
Have you realized that those places that you say the Uganda that people don't know is the one that votes NRA mostly?
You make your point, but I think your points are important points, but they disorientate the points of the argument I'm trying to make.
Be firm.
So,
I have to check what you said.
So yes, many of those people are people who are suffering from Stockholm syndrome, including those in Kasese of Kisoro. The majority of those voters in Kisoro, if you look at them, they're actually not particularly rich, well-to-do people. They're not. Are they? Do they look? They actually generally don't. So in a way, you're making an important point. So some of the majority of the people who voted Nyongo NRA in Kisoro are actually as bad in a terrible state as many of those people from Dokolo and Amuri. If you saw one of the videos that did the rounds the day after the elections in Kisoro, where these people are playing in that funny car, it's a criminal thing, and we've got a lawyer in here. But there's another video that did the rounds for an NRA primary. That turns out to be, it was allegedly in Hoima, where police officers and the army were playing around an NRA primaries. And we'll discuss that later. Just because they were not part of Kisoro, the police and the Electoral Commission came and dismissed it and said, no, this is not Kisoro. But just like we were arguing earlier, just because they're not Kisoro does not make it look good. In any case, I would expect the Inspector General of Police and the head of the army to say, this is not Kisoro and it was Hoima. We tell you, Edgar, and the people of Uganda, that this is something that happened 5 years ago in the primaries, and this is what we did about it. And if it's not, basically we're just having a tourist fun around the country. So against that background, Edgar, you allow me to make a point.
Come in, sir.
Because I know you're genuinely excited for some reason. Against this background, I want to tell you this. One, the independents who voted for Akifeza, those are not NRA. No, they're not NRA. And that's why I asked if you're a lawyer. He's a lawyer, because I think we're trying to continue confusing Ugandans. There is nothing called independent NRA or independent UPC, argument's sake. So I think we can pick and choose the argument. For today's case, I want to make this argument. Because there is this thing being bundled around the media that, both of them are NRA, What about if people who would have voted UPC, who were UPC leaning and UPC supporters, possibly even PPP that came last, or even FDC that performed slightly worse than I expected, their members said, look, for strategic, in fact, in modern democracy, they call them tactical voting. For tactical purposes, we want to give a bloody nose to these NRA guys. The one of whom the Musevenis and their favorite guys from NRA Secretariat decided to give a favor, that Rose girl. Let's beat her and show her. But the person with the more likely possibility to beat her is the other person who's standing as an independent. Let's roll around her. That argument has not been made. Okay. And Comrade, which I've just given a very important research a point to take home. So that's an important argument to make.
Allow me to interject.
Now, because it happened like that, to sweepingly present this idea that, independent voters, people who voted for the independent card plus the NRM. No, I think that's misleading.
Right. Okay, sir, let me ask you something. Most of the issues that you're raising are from without.
Without what?
What I'm meaning is it's about around you. As the opposition, as UPC.
What do you mean by around me?
I'm meaning government, NRM did not do this, The
How can it be that?
Let me first finish my question, sir. My question is to you is, in what place do you own it as the opposition, as a failure on your side, to say that, what didn't you do well?
That's why I told you that you're very excited from the beginning. I see you preempting a question that I have not even addressed. If you're talking, I was giving you the contextual background of the national policy in this country. It's very important. And for me as Ochieno, by the way, I could as well stop there without even going on, and I will make my point. That this country was a democracy in 1985. NRA and DP broke it. These guys banned political parties for 20 years.
But they have been thriving for 20 other years.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying, to what extent, and I want you to answer this question, and it's not being excited.
He will not answer.
But I want you to answer it.
He will not
to what extent do you own the lose as the opposition? To say, what didn't we do best? Because with everything that can happen, if, let's say the second person has 44,000 votes, and the third has 903 votes, that's a difference of more than 30,000 votes. This is not a mistake. So to what extent do you say?
I did not say it.
As the opposition, I did not say you said
Mm.
it. But I'm just saying, to me, this is not a mistake. To what extent, sir, do you own, as the opposition, this particular fall?
I just said, and I repeat what I said very deliberately. You got a little bit excited at the beginning. You've interviewed me for quite some time. You know that I want to give context. I was giving you a national context under which we are operating as a country. As far as then the performance of political positions are concerned, I am delighted. That's one of the reasons why I drive from one end of Kampala to come here every Monday. Because I genuinely want to share with you these things. And if anything, I'll be very disappointed tonight if you, until today, you have not realized that I don't fear questions. Unlike
you answer it. You answer it.
So, but just make sure that you give me the opportunity, the space to come and give you responses. You know,
let him first conclude.
Yeah, and I'm saying that with respect. And you realize that I normally don't take this line.
And I'm also asking with respect, sir. It's not from a different place.
No, it's from a very different place. But I think that we'll leave that for another time. Look, I am saying that.
Yes, sir.
On the basis of the manner in which political parties have suffered in this country, yeah, and finding ourselves returning to the political space 20 years ago, it has been a very difficult space, you know. The FDC, you know what Besigye was subjected to. NUP, you know what NUP was started with, exactly. What it was subjected to.
Yes.
And you know, you opened this conversation with the massacre of our people,
yes.
Some of whom are still in either in hiding, some of them, but some of them where we don't even know where they are. These are realities this week, Edgar. So Edgar, by them taking this very seriously. So lest you forget, this is the context of the conversation we're having over Kisoro. And that's what I was trying to say to you. So, I mean, you really didn't know where I was coming from. Edgar, allow me to make the point, because I think, don't spoil this conversation, you know? Do you get it? I want to say that, therefore, on the basis of this, political position in this country are generally in a very weak state. Except for Mugisha Muntu's political party, you know? All the other political opposition parties have got leadership which are contested. You made a big error, you know, suggesting calling Jim McKenna president of UPC. He's not. You know, legally he's not. He called him president of it, but of course,
you know, went there as a president.
It's in the incompetent legal system that has allowed Jim McKenna to continue to call himself president of the party. So meaning that UPC is operating like a headless chicken. The last time we had a democratically elected president, you know, was 15 years ago, or Larotuno. So that sort of is the challenges. That's why I was giving you the important. That's why I was giving the important. Edgar, you'd allow me make my point.
I have given you the last 15 minutes.
No. You'd allow.
And I want you to also.
It's your interjections.
If you don't mind,
Edgar. Edgar. It's your interjections that made me get this point.
But it is my job to interject.
No, but
But what I'm trying to say, okay.
Dialogue between you have been
okay,
kept
but
away for long.
I've not got the answer I really wanted to what extent the opposition owns it.
You have asked it,
that's
it's
what I'm
okay.
saying. But let me come to you, sir.
Yes, I will start with that question. That question you have asked.
Let him first speak.
That question you have asked. If I were to be the devil's advocate, if I was to answer, your question is, to what extent does opposition account for their failure in Kisoro?
Exactly.
Is it to this extent, to this extent, to that extent, to what extent?
I think that's the question.
Now, me, the answer is if I were the opposition, and I think Bobby Wine tried to hint on it. Bobby Wine said, we knew that this was a NRM stronghold. And he kind of insinuated that we have not done much to come to this area as NUP. We have not been doing our work here, our mobilization. He said it. So if I were him, I would have said, to the extent that either we have been taking it as an NRM area and we therefore had not been entering, or for some reason, either logistics or finance, we have not done work there. Bobby Wine said it. He said for us, we made our point that we are there, but we knew we had not done enough work here. We had always left it. So it is to that extent. It is to the extent that the oppositions have always concentrated in Kampala.
But also to look at his point of view that the violence and the circumstances that are surrounding the way elections are carried out in this country, it cannot sustainably help them as the opposition compete in a better manner with the NRM.
That does not answer your question.
No, that's you have answered the question, but I'm giving his point of view.
Yes.
So what do you think about his point of view?
That what?
That some of the things that have been done by the government or the system does not empower them to compete equitably or in an equitable manner for power in this country.
I've been trying to calculate the 20 years, first of all. I don't know whether it brings us to 2006. Is that what is referred to for the first multi-party election?
Exactly, from 86.
But of course, you even hinted it yourself that from then we have had 20 years. You know, it's like sometimes we keep crying about the colonial effect, the colonial effect, the colonial effect. How long are we going to cry for the colonial effect? Since the new constitution came in place and since the multi-party system came in place, absolutely the 20 years should have been enough for any party to stand up. But then I was asking that can we now say for certainty that the 20 years that we have been explaining NRM has made Ugandans to love it? If that be the case, then we are celebrating. If that be the case, that the 20 years has made the people to love NRM to the extent that they have thrown away other parties, is it wrong? Then there's this question of being excited, Edgar. My brother keeps saying you're excited. I don't know what is the definition of excitement in this case, but the way I'm looking at you is that since I first interacted with you, you're a young man. You have been exposed to the literature in Kampala. The literature you read, the literature you watch on social media, the literature you see on the TV. Actually, basically, if you even extend it to a Ugandan in Boston, do you know a Ugandan in Boston thinks that NRM is collapsing tomorrow? Now, this had been your exposition. And this now explains what is calling excitement. You were actually shocked to find this in Kisoro. I wish you had seen his cause of excitement. He had been from that background.
You're not explaining my observation
on
my... You're not choosing to explain my observation on my...
I saw it. So,
today you're in a very privileged... Today you're in a very privileged position.
So now the thing is, that excitement is right.
No,
because Edgar, I'm still talking. Edgar had all along thought like a Ugandan in Boston who really believes that Museveni collapsed. Two people hate NRM. People hate NRM.
It's not that.
Now, you were shocked that actually 90,000 people, the entire district.
Let me speak for myself. The issue is that when you look at the politics and how it has been happening, there have been a lot of sentiments. We've been robbed from this.
Yes, that is it.
Arrested. But when you look at what happened in Kisoro, there was no interference from the state operatives. There wasn't any, literally. So
and NRM did not win.
Edgar,
NRM did not win. An independent candidate won. We do not know of how many of those people voted for the independent candidate are from other political parties. That's the argument I'm trying to make.
No, you're being theoretical.
Okay.
No, I'm not being theoretical.
No, you're being theoretical.
Comrade, I'm a politician, but you're a political civil servant.
You see, why I'm saying you're being theoretical is, one, this independent you are talking holds a party card, is a party member. 2, this independent you are saying participated in our primary. But can I finish? It participated in our primary. 3, I can assure you, like today follows light, this independent will come and sign an MOU to say I am NRM because I was not satisfied with our primary, I took my stand alone, but here I am to sign for an MOU and will be in NRM caucus tomorrow. Yes. So holding a party membership, a party flag, party membership, contesting the primary, and even ready to sign an MOU. What else do we have to say that this independent is not NRM?
Do you know,
this independent is not NRM?
You disappoint me. You're a lawyer of global. You're a lawyer of global repute. Comrade which you work as a civil servant in a political party secretariat. For me, who is a vanguard of multipartyism and pluralism and democracy, you know, I feel very concerned that Comrade Awich is not saying that you stand against the official candidate for a political party, you lose your membership. And I was waiting to hear that from Comrade Awich, and it does not come out. So that tells you about the hypocrisy about this NRA branch when it comes to the question. They pick and choose what it is. Edgar, officially you stand, unless Comrade Awich is telling us that the NRA constitution, internal provision, doesn't provide for that. If you stand against an official candidate of a political party, you know, you lose your membership. In which case, actually, I expect Comrade Awich to come and expect that this lady.
Maybe you can explain to us.
No, of course, but for your benefit and the benefit of your viewers, they need to know this. You know that the person who stood against the official NRA candidate is officially now no longer a member of NRA, and she would have to apply, and the NRA would have to talk nicely in order to re-allow into the political party. Unless that is not true, then I withdraw all the things I was trying to have a conversation.
I'm going to answer that. Now, first of all, I want to build on the earlier point that if this independent candidate had right from the word go stood as an independent, I wouldn't have any business commenting. If this independent candidate didn't have our party card, I wouldn't have any business with it. If this independent did not participate in our primary, I would have nothing. But that all this happened is NRM. But now, on the question of the law that is citing, it is true. We have it in our law.
Okay.
Our constitution is one of the most robust in that we are the only party in Uganda which have regulations attached to the constitution for disciplinary purposes. And we have tested it in judicial proceedings. We have sentenced our people to that court of the party. Now, what he's saying is a product of a judicial hearing. You just don't say you have sued and lost. You have to be brought to the proceeding of the party court. And Article 44 says a right to be heard. You hear this person, and when you have heard this person, then a judicial decision is made. As far as there is no such a decision, you can't say he's not NRM.
Okay.
You have to be subjected to that process.
As we speak,
yes,
he should be.
If that was the case, then it is kangaroo.
So she broke no
because
rule.
how? No, she will have a right to defend herself in that proceedings. And who knows what could be the ruling? For example, if such a person comes and had evidence,
yeah, she has the basis
to say the evidence. Look, I was rigged in this way. I was rigged there. I was rigged there. Would you, being a party court, would you rule in that party court to say we dismiss you when he has produced your evidence?
Okay, Honorable.
So it depends.
Let's come to the end of this conversation. What next? We're remaining with 1 year. And it looks like NRM for this particular by-elections, they have been sweeping it. And 1 year, opposition is at a disarray, divisions here and there. How's the roadmap for you people? Do you feel that it's going to be an easy vote come 2026?
Yeah, we feel it's going to be an easy way for one reason that in the manifesto we are 84% to its completion. We want to complete our manifesto. For example, in the north, I give us an example. I am praying. There's a road from Masindi Port. From the road, if you travel from Kafu to Kigoma, there's a road which branches off going to Masindi Port.
Yes, I know it.
It starts from that road, from Kampala Gulu Road. If we can make that road, get the bridge across River Nile, enter Obote's village, the other side is Obote's village, that road shoots up to Kitgum. And it is that which is holding our 84%. If only we could do all this to 100%. For us, we don't manufacture votes. We manufacture votes by what we have done to the people.
Okay.
So that road alone would have cleared us Lango. It would make reaching Lira very short. I could actually be going to Lira every weekend. I would even, it would be like less than, it would be shorter than Umbarara. It would be shorter than Umbarara, but like Liatonde actually.
Yes.
It would be like going from Kampala to Liatonde on the tarmac, wide. Then we would have done it.
Okay.
So why I'm saying we have an easy way is because we are 84% in our manifesto. And we think the remaining time would have done it. And this manifesto includes that.
Thank you so much, Honorable Pollar Awich. This gentleman is the Director for the External Affairs at the National Resistance Movement. I have a statement here to you, Honorable Ochieno. This person does not want me to reveal their identity. They say Ochieno is just confusing the public. Let him admit that opposition has failed Ugandans. What do you think about that, sir?
That's an unfortunate observation, and if he's courageous enough, they should reveal their identity. Opposition did not fail Uganda. If there's opposition, I don't know which opposition. All I can say is that this NRA bunch, after 1980 general elections, Museveni, instead of going to court, went to the bush. Museveni has been ruling with a mandate that he broke into State House 40 years ago. Okay? Museveni continues, the NRA guys continue to use state power, public power, Mabati power, basically, to reach out to the people and control and dominate the media. And media, including you as well, once in a while you want to give us a voice. You guys, you know, including this media, you know what happens. So really, this is one dominant political organization that is so cowardly, you know, has held the UPC hostage. Because of the incompetence in the NRA's legal system, you know, we do not have a president, you know, now nearly coming to 10 years, you know, because of the intransigencies in the court, number one. But also on the other side, with that, they're having dining tables with some of our leaders in UPC. They're having dining tables with some of the leaders in DP, and they're having, you know, issues directly in FDC and NUP.
So what next for you?
Okay, let me ask. If you could have answered him or her. I don't know, whoever there was, but you need to allow me to respond to this in a few minutes with respect, actually. You know, so that is basically the situation in the opposition party. But that said, of course, I can't speak for all opposition political parties. They're generally weak. I've simply said the foundations we are in is like basically a referee who's also the captain of a football team running around with whatever the game it is. The answer is neither here nor there. But from a UPC perspective, all I'm saying, we are basically running around like a headless chicken. And I'm just disappointed they interrupted me slightly early. I'm simply saying that opposition parties are generally in such a weak state. In UPC's case, actually, as I said, the person who went, you know, to Kisoro is officially not the legal leader of UPC. So we're basically running like a headless chicken. So meaning, actually, the 400 votes that we got, you know, is really credit to those people who came and responded to us. We should have done better. So opposition parties have a lot of work to do in order to turn around our fortunes going forward. But if we want to use 2026, I think that's a bit unfair. I think my advice to people is that we should stop looking at 2026. We should be looking at Uganda ideally nearly post Museveni. And that Uganda will be one in which political parties organize themselves, including NRA, and to try and establish whether NRA is a monarchy or NRA is a sim for which is now Mr. Museveni's son is going to take over from him because all those big internal disputes. We need to be able to have that conversation, and then the conversation becomes about a national dialogue, a national consultation where we come together, you know, and possibly, you know, talk less about UPC and less about NRA and their terrible records, you know, including breaking some of our bridges, and then talk about Uganda post Mr. Museveni. But quickly on the 84% manifesto of the NRA, Nagongera Road is not yet done. And so Nagongera Road was supposed to have been done in 1989 under UPC administration. When Museveni went to Tororo in 1989, he told the people that it will be done in 1990. So I don't know what criteria these guys use for the manifesto. But whatever the case, good luck to them as far as their manifesto is concerned. What I'm saying is that I think you got wrong the facts about the by-elections. Actually, NRA has lost 4 by-elections in a row, including this one, because NRA lost. The NRA candidate lost. So 4 by-elections in a row, NRA lost. And the UPC won 2 in a row, which was fantastically good. Of course, 2 out of 3 is actually not a bad one. The issue is, why were they winning in possibly Oyam and Dokolo, and possibly not in Kisoro? Okay. I want to tell you that a future post-Museveni Uganda, UPC will reclaim Kisoro. Remember, Philemon Mateke was our minister, fantastic, decent citizen, who's taken shelter. Of course, who's taken shelter in there. But a post-Museveni Uganda, you know, Kisoro will return to Uganda People's Congress, and the political map of this country is going to be very different.
Thank you so much. We have a couple of messages, but I'm not going to let you, because they are really to Ochieno. This one says, opposition politicians are always blaming Museveni for the wrongs in the country, yet they work with him behind closed doors instead of fighting the dictator.
He or she knows those ones.
Instead of
in Jesus' name, I'm not one of those ones, and I reject that.
Instead of fighting the dictator, they are fighting one another. The other says Ochieno is angry and adds on some laughing.
I can actually be very... on that one, I need to respond. I must be angry. And any sensible Ugandan who's not angry at what NR has done to this country in the last 40 years, that person needs... That person needs help. Anybody who's not angry with Mabati thieves... Anybody who's not angry with Mabati thieves... Anybody who's not angry with the breakup of our banks and the institutions... Anybody who's not angry with people who are dying in hospitals because of lack of medicine... That person needs help.
I saw a gentleman called Patrick Wakida join the NRM officially.
No, he was just returning to NRM.
And he says he's going to be fighting poverty for his people in Chibuku.
For his
I don't know to what extent.
No, Wakida is a friend.
Everybody seems to be joining you.
Yeah, because you either join to eat, or you will remain like paupers who have to look for money for medical treatment.
My parting shot is that true as NRM, we are an organization, we have internal challenges like any family, but we try as much as possible to have methods of resolving them, and we have moved. 2 is that we really are focused to what affects the ordinary person. And I'm glad that the people feel it, the people know it. And that is why our colleagues who are in the city, who have tended to be theoretical and arguing this, we said, fine, we can discuss like we are discussing now, but we shall keep focus on the ordinary people. Okay. And we do think that we shall transform this country. Okay. Give us time.
After 40 years, what you cannot do in 40 years, I don't know how much time you need to be given. You know, so what NRA has done is to break our public transport, break our roads, break our hospitals, I'm concluding, break our schools, and then you're putting short on 40 years, you know. So our train systems collapse, our airlines collapse, our agricultural systems collapse, our banks collapse, our hospitals collapse, our schools collapsed, our agricultural services collapsed, our judicial systems collapsed. After 40 years of NRA, you know, with the Mabati thieves, you know, dining, and the cabinet of 22 thieves sitting in the cabinet, and you, Mr. Museveni, chairing it after 40 years. What else, what time do you need to be able to be given to change that? Okay. What time?
That's a question that we leave to Ugandans. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. I've had the privilege to be with retired Major Pollar Awich. Thank you so much, sir. And of course, the gentleman from the Uganda People's Congress. Thank you so much, Honorable Joseph Ochieno. And of course, special shout outs to you people who are always watching us from the time we start at exactly 7 up to now. I see it's 1 minute to the top of the hour. Thank you so much for tuning in. We shall see you again tomorrow morning at exactly 8 a.m. Please do tune in. The Mighty Drive shall return yet again. So if you have your feedback, we want to hear from you. Send it through our social media platforms at The Alternative Uganda, at Digitalk TV. From the entire team, may God bless you and God bless Uganda.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.